Hello and welcome to News in Depth on TVP World with me, Ashim Kumar. Tonight we examine the latest tensions in US-Greenland relations, rising billionaire investments in the Arctic and Europe's efforts to support Ukraine amid a transatlantic rift. EU leaders last month agreed to issue 90 billion euros in joint debt to fund Kyiv's defence, but disagreements persist. France favours a bi-European approach to strengthen EU defence firms, while Germany and the Netherlands push for more flexibility to purchase weapons from third countries. Joining us is Michał Poniatowski, Editor-in-Chief at TVP World. Michał, welcome back. Pleasure as always.
Thank you very much.
As usual, we'll kick off with a bit of a post, actually, from Donald Trump, and I'll get your view on it.
The United States needs Greenland for the purpose of national security. It is vital for the Golden Dome that we are building. NATO should be leading the way for us to get it. If we don't, Russia or China will, and that is not going to happen. Militarily, without the vast power of the United States, much of which I built during my first term and am now bringing to a new and even higher level, NATO would not be an effective force or deterrent, not even close. They know that, and so do I. NATO becomes far more formidable and effective with Greenland in the hands of the United States. Anything less than that is unacceptable. Thank you for your attention to this matter. President DJT.
Your initial thoughts. Is it about Russia and China? Is it about NATO not being strong enough? Is there some other reason?
You know, when he says nothing less than the US taking over Greenland, nothing less is anything else is unacceptable. I would call it negotiations positioning rather than a real thing, because if it is indeed so that he's not prepared to be flexible, then the whole seemingly real estate affair about Greenland is changing into some sort of total exam for the Western democracy as we know it, the status quo for the last 80 years at least, and suddenly he's putting at risk its all foundations. The foundations are is a North Atlantic treaty organization, and it will lose its sense of existence if the top member of the organization is attacking the junior member of this organization, but the founder member.
Yeah, I want to come to the impact on NATO in just a second, but let me present to you another point of view, which is the Monroe Doctrine, which he's actually taken over and called it the Dontro Doctrine, I believe it is. Which says that basically, you know, anything in the Western Hemisphere belongs to the United States, and that would include Greenland. And so no matter how outrageous it may sound that he wants to take over Greenland, isn't that simply in line with the doctrine that he seems to be following and he said he's following?
So what?
Well,
you know, so whether you call it Monroe Doctrine or Donroe Doctrine, it's still an imperialistic doctrine of the United States.
Yes, but his whole framework has changed. He's not worried about the NATO framework any longer. He's more.
Well, if so, this is exactly what I'm saying.
Right.
If this is the change of the whole framework, not only words, that means that the world as we know it is becoming to be completely different, and. First of all, suddenly it appears that the gunboats diplomacy is a tool in international relations, which it has not been for years now. He may, take more care about, obviously, about Americas, but when he takes care of his Western Hemisphere, he's suddenly touching something which is called European sovereignty and actually Danish sovereignty over an island which happens to be in the Western Hemisphere, but
isn't actually a part of America, never has been, never really been connected to it.
Plus, Americans, when they made a treaty, I think, in 1916 with Denmark, in which they guaranteed the
independence
of Denmark on Greenland. So, it's
it seems to be. Shut down, but he talks about Russia and China and says, basically, this is too strategic a place. It weakens not only Europe but also the United States, makes us vulnerable, and there is no alternative. Your thoughts on that argument?
He's the leading member of an organization which is exactly created for this purpose, to defend Western world against Russia. So why not increase the NATO presence on the island? It doesn't have to be owned by Mr. Trump. As I said, he's behaving there like a real estate operator who thinks that without possessing the land, he has too much risks on developing it.
You also said that this may be part of his negotiating strategy. Start out with a maximalist demand, and then
I would be very happy if it was the case.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you to look into your crystal ball. In a couple of hours, J.D. Vance is starting a meeting with the Danish premier, and
Greenland's.
Sorry.
Also in Greenland's premier.
And the Greenland premier. And clearly this is going to be the main point of discussion. What do you think is going to come out of that? Are they going to say, well, is J.D. Vance going to say, yeah, we were only joking, really. We just want to make sure that, that we have a solid presence in Greenland.
As far as we know, the proposal that would be posted in front of the Danish and Greenland's delegation is, we want to buy it. I think the rhetorics which is used by Mr. Trump in this case is inflammatory, I would say, and unacceptable. But dignity is very important in not only in everyday's life but in geopolitics, and he is doing everything to offend these people, and also us, because we are part of Europe.
Right, and other NATO members.
Yes, so Denmark already today started to deploy some advanced team, an advanced team to Greenland, which will apparently or supposedly be followed by a major group of Danish and hopefully multinational troops from the countries of NATO. So if it happens, of course, it will be an important move. If you look at the map on the globe, not as Mercator looks from the side, but from top, you will see that Greenland is exactly on the way from Russian Kola Peninsula, where they have Russians have their main strategic rockets positions, between this and Canada and America. This is the shortest distance to get there. And Greenland is actually the best place to shoot them down, because this is their apogee, and they can be shot down from there most easily.
Right.
But you don't need to possess this ground. They already have Americans military base there, and then they can create more.
Right.
So,
right. Do you think, again, as I say, I do want to come back to NATO in just one second. One more question. Where does this dynamic leave the people of Greenland? Because there is a train of thought there which says Greenland wants to be an independent country. We want independence from Denmark as well.
No, they don't want. They say they accept being...
well, in preference to America, but before this all started, there was they
were given
a movement.
If they are independent country one day, they will take decision. No matter, never mind the fact that there are only 60,000 inhabitants of the island. They still have their sovereign rights. So, if he manages to buy them, good luck.
Yeah.
But if he wants to do anything forcefully, this is then the big threat, if not the end, as some politicians already say, of NATO.
Right. So NATO, the big one. I'm waiting to. What does it mean? Let's suppose, and I think it's unlikely. That's just my personal opinion, that he's actually going to use military force to invade Greenland. But let's suppose that happens. What does it mean for NATO's unity? Is there a NATO anymore?
It's disastrous because NATO has this Article 5, but it refers to member countries being attacked from somebody from the outside of NATO. Here we are facing the situation in which a member country is attacking another country. So this. In normal situation, in any club, in any other organization, if one member attacks the other member, it's the end of it.
Right. So is that what you see other NATO members doing, kicking out the US?
What do you mean?
Kicking the US out of NATO. I mean, does NATO necessarily have to...
I think, no, you cannot kick out the US from NATO because this is, in fact, an organization to which US invited the rest of...
All right, then leave NATO because, after all,
leave NATO and created ETO, European Treaty Organization.
Right.
You have to face the situation if they don't want to protect this part of the world, if they don't want to protect democracy as a notion, but they only want to protect the interests of the United States, tough luck. It's very bad for us. It puts Europe at risk of a major war. But I think what is there's one positive thing. It's, as we already see, Europe is definitely unifying in its defiance towards America by increasing defense production, thinking already about some sort of European forces and commands or something like that. So this is a good aspect of that. But on the other hand, it will be, of course, weakening the status quo of Western democracy.
How powerful, how much of a defense would a NATO without the US be to, well, the obvious country that comes to mind is Russia?
It would be much weaker, but it doesn't mean that it would be defenseless. Obvious problem is nuclear capabilities of Russia, which are much bigger than the resources of the only two nuclear countries in Europe, which is France and Great Britain. Of course, it's much bigger, Russia, in this in respect to this type of weapons.
You mean in terms of the number of...
Yeah. Everything else, Europe is bigger, 3 times bigger in terms of inhabitants, more than 10 times bigger economically than Russia. Plus, Russia is also a vassal of China, which doesn't want any nuclear confrontation because it will be threatening themselves as well.
Right. In the last few minutes that we have left, Michał, I just wanted to touch on the situation in Ukraine. The EU has approved a 90 billion euro loan to Ukraine. This is coming from taxpayer money. It's not leveraged on the Russian state assets that are being held in Belgium. What does that tell you about the source of the money, first of all?
Well, the countries, the leaders of 24 countries, because there's 3 members of the EU, Hungary, Czech Republic and Slovakia, refused to join. The countries will share between them a loan, which is interest-free. And in the end, it would be up to Ukraine to pay it back from eventual Russian reparations. And because we shouldn't be expecting that Russia will one day be forced to reparations, it's clearly said that the money which is now blocked at the mainly at the accounts in Belgium will be used to repay this loan over time. So, in a way, yes, these assets are already engaged because they are guaranteeing this 90 million loan. I think that in the near future we'll see also some sort of freeing this immobilized Russian dollars in Belgium and other places, and which is in fact over 200 billion euros. And then we have to remember that until Russia doesn't pay reparations and then help Ukraine to rebuild the country, this money will be used against it. For it.
Right.
So,
let's see where it will be used. Well, Ursula von der Leyen had something to say. We've got a short soundbite, and I'd like to get your view on what she says.
We propose to split the 90 billion euros in 2 parts. 1/3 will be, that is 30 billion euros for budgetary support, and 2/3 of the 90 billion will be for military support, so 60 billion euros. With the military assistance, Ukraine can stand strong against Russia, and at the same time, it can integrate more closely into Europe's defense industrial base. The funds will be used to purchase equipment mainly from Ukraine, from the European Union and the EEA-EFTA countries. But if these necessary procurement are not possible in this region and or in due time, then it might also occasionally be possible to acquire the equipment outside the European Union and the geographical region I've just described. So in general, European preference, but a cascading principle, European preference first, and then, if not possible, then the purchase abroad.
Okay, so there are 2 points really that she made. The first is how the 90 billion will be split: 60 for military purchases and 30 for rebuilding infrastructure and so on. Now, of the military purchases, there's a bit of a split in how that should be spent. France is saying the military purchases should all come from the EU. Other countries, including Germany, are saying, well, that limits Ukraine's flexibility in terms of what weaponry it can purchase. Your thoughts?
Well, Europe doesn't have all the weapons that Ukraine may need, like, for example, Patriot systems, which are the best existing anti-aircraft system that there are. So, of course, they must be allowed to buy Patriot systems and other rocket systems. There will be definitely some sort of weapons that are not produced in Europe because, for example, AI depending machines will have also to be bought.
Also, the
in
munitions
US.
for the F-16 planes that
For
Ukraine
example.
bought.
But, there was one thing she said, that also the weapons will be purchased, paid for by European money from the Ukrainian producers. Ukraine, during these 4 years, became not only the largest user of Western weapons, but also one of the largest producer of weapons in Europe.
And drones being a very good example.
Like, for example, drones, which they are producing in thousands every day.
Yeah.
So, plus we have to remember that Ukraine, before the collapse of the Soviet Union, was the main military producer inside the Soviet Union.
Inside the Soviet Union, yeah.
Missiles and tanks, and they all have this capability.
They have the capability, and of course they have the knowledge, skills, which is general. Thank you, Michał. As always, time has flown by. We have to end it now, but come back and see us again soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And that brings us to the end of this episode of News in Depth. Don't go away, lots more coming up. Goodbye.